Hello and welcome to Attention Central Texas. I'm your host for today, Charles Jenkins, and today we have another exciting show in store for you. We have Chantel Thomas, gospel recording artist, in the studio today. Hello and welcome to today's show.
How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Chantel, let's just jump right to the questions. First, just tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm originally from Oklahoma.
Okay.
And me and my family moved here from Virginia about 4 years ago.
Okay.
And so we've been here ever since then. So.
And being that you're a gospel recording artist, when did you record your first CD?
I actually recorded a single in 2008.
Okay.
And it started from that. In 2010, I released my first full album. So
What's the name of it?
The name of my album is Higher.
Okay.
And, yeah. So.
Speaking of your album, what inspired you to sing?
Well, I've been singing since I was 3.
Okay.
You know, it was something that I love to do. You know, I never thought twice about anything. I just loved to sing. It was something that kept me, you know, calm sometimes. Sometimes it kept me, as far as if I was going through anything, it kept me. So, just pastime.
I hear you.
You know.
Speaking of your CD, which led to the next thing I'm getting ready to talk about, you're now the host of a radio show.
I am, yes sir. Yes,
What is the name of your radio show?
It's called No More Silent Tears, and it's going to be on 88.1 FM.
Okay. And No More Silent Tears mean you've been through something.
Exactly.
So what is your show about?
My show is about domestic violence.
Ooh.
And so what is enabling people to do is come on the show and talk about something that they've been through. The Bible tells us that we're overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the words of our testimony. And for me to talk about what I've been through, that's how I started getting, receiving healing. And so I believe that when people start talking about what they've been through, that they'll receive their healing, and that's what the show is about. So
that's good.
Yeah.
I live by a little creed called your tests become your testimonies, and that seems like what you're going to be doing on your show.
Wow.
Who's your target audience?
My target audience would be anybody that's been through abuse, anybody. So I'm looking to broaden it out, just not for just women, but for men, children, whoever have experienced that horrific violence. So.
And I sense your passion behind it. Being that you're so passionate behind it, have you experienced this yourself?
Yes, I have. Over 15 years ago, I was in a domestic violence relationship. And 15 years later, I still found myself suffering, even after that relationship was over. And it took me a lot of places: depression, anxiety. I couldn't, have relationships that were healthy, rather it been with family members, or I just didn't have healthy relationships. And so couldn't fulfill my destiny. Couldn't, it's just a lot as far as just being, walking upright. I couldn't do a lot of things to my full potential. And so my healing began. The Lord had woken me up and told me I needed to go speak to some women who have been in domestic violence. And at that time, I called my manager, and I said, I need to get into a shelter. And she made it happen for me. I went into a shelter, and that was my first time publicly speaking to other women about domestic violence and what I've been through. And my healing started coming after that.
So speaking to them about it healed you?
It sure did, yes, it did. It took time, because it does take time, and but it was like stages. And so when I started talking about it, it seemed like it was like a release, because I held so much in, and a lot of people don't realize when people go through domestic violence, it's something that overtakes them. You know what I mean? You can't do the things that you want. It cripples you in a way, it disables you in a way. But when you begin to get healing, all those things that you were, that you had experienced through it, it somehow, fades away, So I'm excited because for 15 years I suffered, and now I'm able to just be able to be free and smile again, and so that's what the show is about.
Okay. And being that you're an artist, what led you into wanting to broadcast? Is it the trial you've been through of experienced domestic violence, or is it something else?
Well, honestly, I never saw myself broadcasting, so it was just something that just never came up. I never thought about it. Like I said, I love to sing, and I was just so focused on my music ministry. One day, probably back in 2008, I started trying to figure out what could I do to help people who have been through the same thing. I went online. I started looking at different, options that I could probably, get, try to help somebody. And I tried to look up advocacy, try to see if I could do that. And I was like, no, I don't think that would be for me.
Mm-hmm.
And volunteering, that didn't. I could volunteer, but that wasn't something that I knew I wouldn't put too much into, But as far as broadcasting, I found a site, and it had a radio thing where you could go on and broadcasting. And I looked at it, and I'm like, this is so overwhelming. I don't know where to begin. I left it alone, but I was very interested, in that. Didn't think no more of it, but about a few months, just recently,
Mm-hmm.
I started going back online trying to figure out what could I do to help somebody. And started praying, staying up, trying to find out, online, what can I do? And after that, didn't think no more of it. And I think it was just a setup. It was a setup. So I went to Austin trying to promote my album, and I met a young man who owns a radio station there, 88.1. I went in and I gave him my information, my press kit and everything. And before I left the show, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. And that was broadcasted. And I was like, Lord, this is a setup. You really set me up. You set me up. But, I'm excited. I'm so excited. And, God is already touching and healing, so.
And I think this is going to be something exciting, because when people go through things, you feel, I'm the only one going through this.
Right.
And when you reach out to other people and they see, oh, that's someone else, there's power in that. So
Yeah.
my hat goes off to you for that. What is the number one thing you want your listeners to take away from your show when it comes off on the air?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
What is the number one thing you want your listeners to take away from your show?
I really want them to hear some of the testimonies from other people. Like you said, if you hear somebody else that have been through it, because with domestic violence, you're isolated. It's a lot of things that come with it. And you do feel like you don't have anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And, even after being if you're a survivor, you still kind of isolate yourself from a lot of different things, So I want to let people know that they are not alone,
Mm-hmm.
And they can come from this, they can come up from this. God can heal them, They just have to find them, find their passion and get into that. And that's another thing that the show I express all the time, is that once you get out of a situation like this, find something that you could actually get into to get your mind off of what you've been through.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And that goes into my next question. I was going to ask you, what do you do now to keep your focus from not going back into depression or feeling down on yourself?
This is something that I'm doing now to keep me focused. One is music ministry, and now that this is here, this have came, the music have come. I'm actually doing the show, which is something else that's keeping me grounded and focused. And anything that God give me to do, I'm not limiting God. I've stopped that. I've stopped limiting Him. I'm like, okay, broadcasting me, but now it seems like anything that God give me, I can do it.
Mm-hmm.
Through Him, I can do it. So I'm just excited. I'm really excited about where everything is going. So
I think that's awesome. What is, if you had something to say to our viewers before we close the show out, what would you say?
Said, just follow your passion. Whatever it is, I don't care if it's just tying your shoe. If that's your passion, really get into it, let God use you. I'm a witness that if you don't and you get idle, you'll find yourself being back into the situation that you were in before. And just coming from experience, that's, don't get, don't get into depression, don't get into anxiety, don't let that take over. Just stay focused and grounded in what God, the passion that God gave you.
Well, Chantel, I want to take this time and thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And I want to thank you, our viewers, for tuning in to Attention Sister Texas. But before we go, we have something special for you. We have one of the songs from Chantel's new album called Silent Tears. Sit back and listen.
Secret, no one else can reach it. I've got a quiet place to hide away. Any time of the day I can get away. You are my hiding place when I need to get away. I've got a quiet place to hide away. Any time of the day I can get away. You are my secret place. It's time to make a move. Moving on. From the days of my past, it's behind me. It's behind me. Straight ahead. Straight ahead. There's no time to look back. There is one thing that I know for sure. Trouble don't last always. Trouble don't